Hello guys and welcome back. Today we are going to be looking at array in details. I'm sure you've seen how array looks like, right? But we have not actually accessed and checked wonderful things that array can do. So today we are going to be looking fully into the power of array. Now the things we'll be looking at is how to create an array, accessing an array, manipulating array, and also iterating over an array. So let's get started because probably this video might be long, I don't know. So creating an array, you've seen how we create arrays, right? So let me create an array called ages. Let me just put it like this, and this array contains age of people. So I can say this and this. So this is simply me creating an array of age, and I can also create an array of names. I've said I don't want to use names. Of names of people, I can also create it. Let me just. This is simply creating an array, and you will notice something. Each of these array, somehow they are uniform, right? Like they contain the same data types. In this array, every of the items are string. In this array, every of the items are numbers. That's not so about array. Array can contain any data types. You can see, I can also create an array called, let me just say multiple data types. You can give it any name. Let me just give it subname. So I can try to create an array that holds multiple data. And all like that. They can contain any form of data that you might think of. And this is how to create an array. Right? Yes. And another way to create an array, let's say for example, I have an array of cars, but starting the array is actually empty. How do I create an array from this empty array like this? One of the ways to create it is by adding things into the array. Remember, each values in an array has an index which starts from 0. Meaning, for example, for this username, the Joe has index 0, this has index 1, and this has index 2. So I can decide to say cars, then I give it index 0 should be equal to, should be equal to Toyota. And I decided to do the same thing. Let's say cars index 1 should be equal to Camry. Well, Toyota Camry. Cars index 2 should be equal to, let's say, Benz. Yeah. So when I try to log into the console the cars, let's see what we will have. Yes, we have 3 elements in an array. The first one, which has an index of 0, we have it 1, index 2, and we have a property called length. Thank God I haven't spoken about this. An array has an index, a property called length. I might have spoken about it in previous lessons. Yes, when we are trying to iterate over an array. Now, let's say for example, I want to know how many value is inside this age array, ages. I can just say ages dot length, and it will give me number of items inside the array, and which is 6. And if you try to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, it is 6. That's just simply a way to know how many item is inside an array. I hope you like this. So I won't be talking much about creating an array anymore. Let's look at accessing an array. Yes, how do we access an array? Sometimes you might say, okay, I want to access some certain value in an array. Okay, how do we do this? Yes, you can do this by accessing it via their index. Let's say I want to access the name Rebecca. I can decide, and I want to log it into the console. I can try to say username, I will check which index does Rebecca has. Index 2, right? Because it's 0, 1, 2. So if I log into the console now, I will see Rebecca because I have accessed this array using its own index. Okay. Also we can also create, is it create? No, not really create. We can also access values in an array using what we call the index. There's a function called index, and this is what this one does. It helps us to get the index of any element in an array. Let me say the username dot index. I want to find the index of Jude in this array. I want to check index of Jude, and once I log it into the console, it will give me the index, which is 1. Yes, it is 1. So I can easily say, okay, username 1, and it will give me back Jude, right? Yeah. Now let's say, for example, you try to find index of a value that is not in an array. It will not give you an error the way you expect it, but it will return an index of -1. Yes, -1, telling you that this value is not actually in the array. Yeah. So another thing we can look at is last index. But before I look at last index, let's just look at it a bit. I just want to be fast. If I say last index of Joe, look at it, we will get 0. Yes, because Joe is at position 0, right? Then you begin to wonder, what's now the difference between index and last index? Now let's assume that I have another Joe here, and I save it. What do you think will be logged into the console? 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. What last index does is it looks through the array from the back to find the value. So the first item it finds, it will log the index into the console, but the index of starts looking through the array from the front of the array. I hope this is understood. Now another function I would like to talk about is slice. Okay, let me try to log to the console. Username dot slice, and this takes a start number. Okay, where do I want to start slicing from? Start from what? Let me use start from 1, index 1, and end in which index? Let's say I want to end is index 3, and save and see what I have. Yes, it logs into the console 2 for me. And this, what it does, it starts 0, 1. Then I want to stop at index 3, 0, 1, and this is 2, this is 3. What it does is it creates an array, a new array for you, using what I've specified here. I'm starting from Jude, but I want to stop in index 3, but I will not include index 3 into the array. So that's why it has created this new array using Jude and Rebecca. But one thing about slice is it will not tamper with the original array. The original array still remains, but this is a new array on its own. I hope you understand this. And I forgot to say one thing when creating an array the other time. You can also create an array from a string. Let's say I have a string. I have a string of words. Like say, this is a string from an array. So there is a function in string that I can use to create an array. Let me just say word array is equal to create an array from these words. I can say words dot split. Look at it. Split is a string. Split a string into substrings using the specified separator and return them as an array. Yes, that's what it actually does. Then I will use a separator. The separator I will be using is a space. Every space, I will use every space to separate each of the string into an array. Then I'll just create this space. After that, I want to log into the console my word array to see, and if I try to, yes, I have 7 items. Each of them have been added into an array I've created. This is a string from an array. Yeah, I hope this is clear, right? So let me just comment this out and let's focus on the next thing. Now we've known how to access array either by using the index like this, index of the array, or trying to look for the index of any value inside the array, or trying to create an array from the array. Now another thing we can do is manipulating an array. Now you can add item or remove item or arrange an array. Let's take for example my age array. Now I want to add another item into my age array. A way to do it is by saying ages dot push. There's a function called push, and let's say I want to add a new age called 44. One thing it will do, it will push this 44 into this array. Now let me log this array to confirm that yes, we've actually added 44. Let me comment other logs. Yes, you can see at the end of the array 44 has been added. Remember 44 wasn't included before. That's push for you. Push adds elements at the end of an array. Yes, and another way to add an element into an array is using the function called onShift. What this onShift does is that it adds an element at the beginning instead of at the end. Once I save this and I refresh it, you can see the 44 is now added at the beginning instead of at the end. Yes, but instead of using this function, there's a quick and easy way to add an element into an array. If I remove these functions, let me just put it as a reference purpose. Let me just put it as a reference purpose and then I will comment it out. Okay, let me just leave it. Now another way to add an element is by saying ages. Remember, I can specify the index that I want to add an element to, then add the element to it, right? The way we did here. We did car 0, we had an element to it, car 1 we had. Now, but the thing is, okay, where do I want to add an element to? Remember, if I try to add an element to 0 and I say equal to, let's say 11, and I log it into the console, what will happen is, remember, we have added 44 into the beginning. Now 44 has an index of 0, then it will overwrite that 44 to become 11. That's what it will do. Yes, it will become 11. It will overwrite it. Once it has been created already, it will overwrite it. So this is not what we want. We want to actually create a new one. And how do we do this? We can use a simple tool called ages.length. Since we don't know the end of the array, so we can use the ages.length. Remember, let's say this array has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 values, right? That means the last value there we have index of 5, because index starts from 0. That means if I use the length attribute, which is the length will be 6, that means at index 6 there won't be anything inside there, so I can easily add something to it. So from there, that means at the end of the array, now let's look, 11 has been added apart from the 30, and the 44 still remains there. Remember, this 30 was pushed. I hope you understand this. Now let's look at removing element from an array. Now to remove elements from array, we use function called pop. this pop remove an element from, let me leave this so that I can add them to the array. We use the pop, so this pop will remove the last element. That means definitely the last element here will be 11, right? Since 11 will be the last one. So once I refresh this, I won't see this 11 anymore. Yes, I will not see it anymore because it has been removed by the pop. And to remove element from the beginning, you might have guessed right, shift. So this shift will remove this 44 definitely, because that's the last. Yes, it's no more there. So this is basically how to do this. And another thing we want to learn is how to do we arrange an array. Arranging an array. Let's say for example, these ages here, I want to arrange them in ascending order. It is not orderly arranged. Then what I will do is ages dot sort like this, and I log it into the console. Remember, look at how it looks like. When I go into the console and press 5, it becomes 18, 19, 21, which is arranged in ascending order. I hope it is clear. Now, imagine, okay, after you've sorted the array, I want to reverse the array. Instead for ascending order, I want to change to descending order. After sorting, I'll just say ages dot reverse. This reverse will reverse it from ascending on to descending order. Yes, you can see it has been reversed. But there's an issue with this kind of sort. And let me give you the scenario. Let's say we have 21 here, I have 100 here, I have 6 here, and let me just save it. Then let me comment this out and try sorting again and see what we have. See what happened. 100 is now first, which is not supposed to be so, and 6 is now last, which is not supposed to be so. What this does is it only sort based on the first value, Now each of these ones have 1 1 1, right? But the next value is 0, which is lower than the rest. That's why it's bringing this 100 to the first. But how do we override this kind of thing in JavaScript? To override it, we'll create a special function. Remember, we've learned about function called, I can't use the name sort, right? Because it's a special name. So sort array, and this sort will take two values. I will say, okay, the first number in the array and two arguments, right? The second number in the array. Then what I want to do is I want it to return the first number in the array minus the second number in the array. What this does is it compares the array before sorting. Then once I put this function inside the array, sort array. Now this is how I will leave the function. I will not call it like this. If I do it like this, it is very wrong. I am calling the function. But if I leave it like this, I am not actually calling the function. What I'm doing is I'm passing the function as a parameter to this method here. I hope you understand the difference. Once you are passing something as a parameter, you don't. But once you put the parenthesis, that means you are calling the function, and that's not what the sort wants. This sort accepts a function as an argument. So once I save this and I go back and reload the browser, you can see now this has been arranged properly. Yes, that's it. And in case you want to do descending order, you can just say 2 and subtract from 1 and save, and this will reverse it in descending order. Yeah, so that's basically about sorting. Now let's quickly move to iterating over an array. So let me quickly comment out all this. Yes, how do we iterate over an array? Yes, there are some functions that we can use to iterate over array, and here are they. We have non-array generating iterator, and these are we have for each that I tried to use in previous video that I have to cancel it because I want to introduce it here. We have the for each loop, we have the every function, every method. Okay, they are called method. They are actually a function, but since they are alongside an object, so they are basically called method. So and we have the sum. Okay, now let's start with the for each loop. So the for each loop, what it does is, let's say okay, I want to do something with these ages. Now let's say ages dot for each, and this for each takes a function as an argument, just like the sort. So the function, I will create the function, and what I want to do is, let's say add 5 to ages. Let me just give it this name. Let me just call it this name. And what I want this to do is to return, okay, it will take a, since I'm adding 5 to name, it will take a parameter. Let me just say the age, right? Age, and return age plus 5. Then after I've returned age plus 5, then I want to log age to the console. Then I will now pass this function into the for each loop. Oh, sorry, this will not run. Remember, once the return is called, it will not run. So instead of doing like this, let me just log into the console immediately, then add the age plus 5. I think this will be fine like this, and remove this. Then once I reload, now the 5 has been added. Each of the array, 5 was added to them. And for us to see it clearly, let me create something. Let me say old. Let me create something as old. Then old should be the age. Then let me say new should be this. You can pass a lot of parameters into the console. You can pass different values, separating them by comma. Alright, see, this is the old value 21. After adding 5, it becomes 26. The old value 31, after adding 5, is become 36. The old 34 after adding 5. So that's what for each does. For each will take each of the elements in the array and do something with them. You can do anything. You can decide to multiply. You can decide to do anything with them. That's what for each does. And for every, now let's look at every. Now every also takes function as a parameter, and as a parameter. Now let's try to create a function called, okay, I don't want to edit this. I prefer to comment it here, so that someone might want to try to read the code for reference. So I can say okay, ages rather dot every, then I click this. So I'll be creating it separately. Alright, and how do I do it? I want to create a function called is even. So what is even? What this every does is that it looks at all the elements in the array and test it upon something. Okay, if it's true, it will return true. If it's false, it will return false. So this function is not actually correct. Yeah, it's okay. So it will take individual age, then I will return age modulus 2 equal to 0. And let me explain what's going on here. Every takes function that is even. So it will iterate into each of the array, and this is the array here. So let me just try to, so that you can see the array very well. The array, it will iterate and check, okay, check the first value. This first value will become age in this function. After it iterate again, this second will become the next age. Then what it does is, okay, it checks, okay, age modulus 2. Remember, modulus will return remainder, the remainder. Meaning, if I divide age with 2, will it give me a remainder of 0? If it doesn't give me a remainder, that means it is actually an even number, right? But if it gives me a remainder, that means it's not an even number. So this is what this does. Then I'll just put is even. So let me just log this into the console and see. It says false because sum of the array, like 21 is not an even number, 31 is not, 34 is, 55 is not, 19 is, 19 is not, rather 18 is, 100 is, and 6 is. So that's why it's returning false. But a function, another function that we'll be looking at, which is sum, we check into the array. Is sum of the, it's also take same function like the every. You can decide to define a new function, but I want to check if sum of the element in the array is even number. Now this one, it doesn't need every of the element to be even. You will just check, is there some of them that are even? Then it will return true. Yes, some of the elements are actually even. I hope you understand this. Yes, I made it simplified by creating the function separately. Normally in people's code, what you always see something like this. Let me say, for example, I want to do something with each of the elements in the ages. I'll say ages dot for each, and you see something like this, creating another function, then an arrow function like this. Instead of me creating this function outside separately, the way we did in every of it, I will create it as an anonymous function. That's a function that doesn't have a name. Then I'll create it. Then for each age, then I use an arrow function this time around. Then I'll now say, okay, and log age plus 5. Sorry, log will not work. Console.log. Then once I refresh, alright, so you can see it has already added 5 to each of them. So this is the way you might see people do things, but so that you can easily picture what's actually happening, that's why I separated the function and I gave it a name from the actual method that we are looking at. And you can decide to do it either way. You can decide to change this function by removing it like this, cutting it, then placing it here. It will still give the same thing, but here now you have to introduce the arrow function to make it neat. And this console log will not work anymore because now it is not returning a value. So then we can just do our console log here, log here. I hope it's fine by you. So this is basically most of the things you will be seeing on the web. Now these are non-array generating, meaning every of this function now will not give you a new array. Now we'll be looking at some function now that will definitely give you a new array. Yes, I will still use my even function. Now the next method we'll be looking at is the map function. This map function will return a new array instead. Let's say ages.map. Now we want to map age function. So we want to map the age function. So we want to check each of the age, then we want to do something with each of the age. Then we now say return age times 2. This function here will return a new array. So to save the array, let me just save the array and say new ages. Then I can log the age into the console. New ages. No. So once I reload, yes, you can see it takes all the age. The 100 has become 2, the 6 is 12, the 18 is 36, and the rest like that. It takes all the age, each of them, and multiply them by 2 and create a new array for them. That's what map does. And to make these things simplified, since it's only one parameter, I can remove this. Since it is only one statement that is inside the function, I can remove the return value the way we did the other time. I can simply return remove the parenthesis and the return value. Yes, this will still give us the same thing, but we've simplified our code. I hope you understand. Then the next one we'll be looking at is filter function. Yes, the filter function. So I want to filter the age. Ages dot filter. Let's say I want to separate the ages that are even number now. Then I want to create a new array using the ages that are even number. So the age that are even number, I want to return age if you are even number. That is, once I check the modulus, you give me 0. Okay, I'm not meant to use return, rather it's just a single line of code. So this will create a new array called even ages. So let me just log it. Even ages. So once I go into the console, you can see all the ages that are even number, a new array has been created for them. And I can try to change it and say not equal to 0 to create what we call odd ages. So all ages with odd numbers will be created. Yes, and these are they. I hope you really understand how this filter works. Yes, and there's one powerful thing about all these functions, both the non-array generating and array generating methods. Rather, I'm fond of calling them a function. Actually, they are function. Yeah. So there's one cool thing about that. You will notice that every time I'm putting just one parameter in there, it's not that that's the only parameter that they actually receive. Let's say for the ages dot for each, you can see it accepts 3 parameters. The first one is the value, which is the individual age. The second one is the index. Sorry, it's because I did remember once it's more than 2 parameters, you have to put the parentheses. The age is the first value. The second value is the index, which is a number, the index of the age that we are trying to look, and the next value is the array. Let me say array gone, meaning the age array itself. So you can sometimes you might want to do something with both the age individual element and also the index of that element. So you can decide to do it, try to do something with it, and said okay, log age multiply by index. So I'm multiplying all the ages by their index. Let me remove this array. I don't need I don't want to do anything with the array. So once I go to the console and reload, yes, you can see the first array, the index is 0. So anything times 0 will give you 0. That's why the first element is 0. Then others, the 100, the index is 6. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 100 multiplied by 6 is 6. You can see what we did here, right? So others to accept other parameters like that. I hope you really enjoyed this video. It is full of most of the things you will be doing with array, although there are many other things to do. but as time goes on we'll learn that. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.